Good morning. Today I'll be talking about our student Ben Whitmore and advocating for the use of Prosper in regards to his well-being and the situation with the other student Tom. First off, within education the term well-being has been consistently changed. It used to be considered as student welfare and involve the ability to remove or mitigate negative conditions within a student's life. However, now it's forward-focusing and recognizes the cultivation and nurturing of positive aspects of a student's personal and schooling life. Furthermore, with Victoria and the VCAA, well-being focuses on teaching the students the skills required to self-regulate, build resilience, adapt, and experience feelings of satisfaction and happiness. With this in mind, it's important to make sure that the well-being of a student is always considered as an active process as opposed to shifting it towards an outcomes-based one. One way to ensure this is by having the three distinct processes of being, having, and doing. Being implies the student is having their needs met in a physical and emotional sense, which leaves the student feeling happy, loved, wanted, and cared for, which in turn brings a sense of satisfaction and community. To have relates to the fairness, respect, and equality a student feels, which brings a feeling of self-efficacy and confidence. Lastly, doing is about being able to look after and respect yourself through the kind of good decisions that you make. Looking specifically at Ben's situation, he's a student with high-functioning autism, having to process the grief associated with his mother's passing, combined with the cumulative stress of making several lifestyle adjustments and the undealt with bullying. This has led to a deficit in self-regulatory behavior, as shown by the behavior report written by the teacher, which demonstrates that the only way Ben knows how to deal with this is by to remove himself from the situation. This has severely affected Ben's well-being within the school, as it can be construed as his physical and mental health is not being cared for at this time. Furthermore, there's a perceived unfairness about the situation implied by the interviews with his father and the parental reactions of Tom's parents, who hold weight within the school community due to the mother's position within the PCA. With all this in mind, the suggestion is to implement well-being strategies derived from the Prosper well-being framework. It's the belief that using Prosper, Ben can learn the resilience necessary to navigate the personal changes in his life, understand how to build more social connections within his community so that he can have more than one friend and seek positive relationships with other people. This will also help him to learn better self-regulation techniques as opposed to just situation selection. So, why Prosper over any other model? Within Victoria, well-being involves three key practices: academic learning, student well-being, and student engagement. Building frameworks for improving student engagement within schools has shown to be able to improve social emotional well-being, resilience, and educational achievement within students. Currently, it's estimated that 1 in 7 Australian children and teenagers meet the criteria to be diagnosed with a mental health diagnosis. Of these teenagers, approximately a quarter have depression or anxiety. One particular cause of this is mental health illiteracy and a poor help-seeking attitude. The use of positive education and Prosper can significantly reduce feelings of depression through positive emotion interventions. So what is Prosper? The Prosper framework is comprised of 7 key elements: positive emotions, engagement, relationships, meaning, and accomplishments are ones all found in Siegelman's PERMA model, but Prosper goes one step forward and adds in strengths and resilience. As Prosper still fits Siegelman's 3 criteria for emotional and physical well-being, where each element contributes to well-being, can be defined and measured independently of any other element, and people pursue the element for their own benefit, but adds in the extra 2 elements, Prosper can be viewed as a more comprehensive and thorough approach to student emotional well-being. One of the underpinnings of Prosper is that by engaging positively with the community, yourself, and your future, it will improve social connectiveness and resilience. This will in turn lead to improved feelings of happiness and contentment and being as defined in the introduction. Furthermore, Prosper intends to help students foster a multitude of positive relationships within the school community through the teaching and practice of skills such as sharing, anger management, cooperation, respectful discourse, fair play, negotiation, and how to have a conversation. This improved sense of belonging that comes with building a more cohesive and inclusive school environment is one factor that ultimately helps the student to become more able to adapt mentally, physically, and emotionally to difficult experiences in life. Ultimately, the use of Prosper as a well-being program within schools looks to improve the students' physical and mental health by improving their sense of belonging to themselves and the community. which is, according to the self-determination theory, one of the 3 basic needs of a person. By feeling this sense of belonging, students become less depressed, anxious, and improve their emotional regulation skills, which allows them to be more productive members of the school community. For the well-being of students, feeling as if they have ownership over the processes and life of the school is another important consideration. Within the Prosper framework, helping students define their purpose is one way to provide them with this autonomy, and is done by teaching students how to determine and exhibit certain behaviours that align with their perceptions of who they are and their personal strengths. Similarly, forming student-led committees and action groups where meaningful change can be spoken about and actioned also improves the student's sense of well-being and purpose. Prosper has also been shown to be adaptable to a multitude of situations, which make it an ideal framework for a school to employ. One problem with Precel, which focuses on self-awareness, self-management, responsible decision-making, relationship skills, and social awareness, is that limitations have been found when needing to apply to situations of trauma, diversity, or culture. Shriver and Weisberg believe this was because there was a desire by Precel to create a framework that was heavily evidence-based, which resulted in overgeneralizations. On the other hand, Prosper has been shown to be effective when in both dealing with trauma through the teaching of positive psychological interventions and students with diverse needs such as autism by using an adapted positive psychology profiling program. One way Prosper helps to improve the mental well-being of students with trauma and diverse needs is via the inclusion of mindfulness, which has been shown to reduce or decrease the severity of trauma-related effects of stress and trauma in children. Similarly, through the teaching of how to have positive conversations, children with diverse needs, such as autism, can be explicitly taught how to relate better to their peers and adults through the sharing of positive experiences and interests. One other proposed model is the Aspire one. Aspire relates to agency, safety, positivity, inclusion, respect, and equity. Similar to Prosper, it aims to include a whole child approach to SEL education that uses explicit teaching to help the student integrate positively into the school community through resilience and community-focused interventions. However, unlike Prosper, which is an implemented program with its roots in psychological principles, Aspire is not a replacement for SEL initiatives that a school has already implemented. With this in mind, it is recommended that Prosper be used as a primary initiative as it is more comprehensive in improving student well-being. However, some elements of Aspire, such as circle solutions, could be borrowed and integrated for improved program efficacy. Alright, looking now at how these recommendations could be used for Ben Whitmore. So, with Ben being a student that presents with several different developmental needs, these primarily being autism, dealing with grief and social isolation, which has hindered his ability to learn and exhibit self-regulatory behaviors in times of distress, the Prosper framework is the most appropriate well-being one to implement. This is primarily due to its adaptability and thoroughness. Firstly, Ben's struggles with self-regulatory behavior could be addressed through the Prosper framework through the teaching of resilience and an improved emotional vocab. Ben might find it hard to engage with the emotional side of his brain, and therefore when he becomes deregulated, he is more likely to act impulsively and harmfully, as demonstrated by his actions against Tom. Using a program such as the zones of regulation, which breaks down the specific emotions into specific zones, would allow staff at Ben's school to provide him with a structured and easily accessible way for him to recognize and regulate his behaviors. Similarly, the use of peer mentoring and cooperative games will also help Ben to build pro-social relationships. This will further improve his emotional well-being and regulation. With Ben's mother having recently passed, the use of a strength and positivity-based well-being curriculum could help Ben to process the grief. Prosper can be employed for this purpose, firstly through the practice of mindfulness training. Explicit mindfulness training, as previously mentioned, has helped to decrease symptoms of anxiety and improve emotional regulation in individuals who are experiencing grief. Focusing on tasks and activities that bring Ben happiness could also work to improve his pro-social relationships with his classmates, as it would improve social interactions that involve similar like activities. Also engaging Ben in task-oriented coaching by the school leadership team and school psychologists could allow him to understand and engage with aspects of his personality and interests that he perceives as strengths and improve his experience at school. To help with his social isolation, helping him to build a school community and be part of it would also be important. This can be done for Ben by involving him in the planning and participation of student-led activities, either during class or recess and lunch. Lastly, as there is clear conflict between Ben and Tom, there will need to be a process of restorative justice. Prosper allows for this via the teaching of acting courageously, what it means to make a good decision, and the explicit teaching of social skills. In this situation of conflict between Ben and Tom, having them engage in role plays where non-violent solutions are proposed and acted on would help them to build the capacity to better handle moments of conflict. Overall, the altercation between Ben and Tom has shown an issue with the school's wellbeing program. With Ben acting out aggressively, it demonstrates that he was not feeling happy, loved, and wanted by the school community due to perceived lack of fairness and how previous complaints about Tom's behaviour were dealt with. Through the utilisation of Prosper as a wellbeing framework, the aim is to be able to reconnect Ben with both himself and the school community and provide a path forward through his grief and isolation. Thank you.